The council chamber of Arcanis Prime floated like a jewel above the gas giant's swirling storms, its crystalline dome refracting the starlight into shimmering colors across the floor. To most species, it was a cathedral of diplomacy, where peace had been carefully stitched together for centuries. To Admiral Kalen Rourke, it felt more like a courtroom where humanity always stood accused. He adjusted the black collar of his uniform, the polished insignia of the United Human Defense Fleet catching the pale light. Every movement in the chamber echoed, a deliberate architectural trick meant to remind petitioners how small they were before the council's gaze. Across the tiers, representatives of the elder races leaned forward in curiosity or disdain. The insectoid Siraki clicked their mandibles in amusement. The translucent-limbed Curie shifted with liquid grace. But all eyes eventually fell to Councillor Zarak, the towering Veari whose scaled frame gleamed under the dome's refracted light. He had orchestrated today's session. Kalen placed the hollow emitter on the central plinth. Blue light rose, painting the chamber with images of burning colonies, destroyed habitats, and human civilians fleeing before waves of marauders. His voice was steady, deliberate. Irivos, Callan Reach, and Meridian Outpost. 3 colonies in 2 years. Hundreds dead. Thousands displaced. These are not accidents. These are not random raids. The ships we've identified carry weapons only found in Council-controlled sectors. Humanity demands investigation and protection, as promised under Article 9. The silence that followed was brief but heavy. Then Zarak's serpentine voice cut through it, smooth and poisonous. Demands? He repeated, savoring the word. Curious that a species barely 3 centuries into spaceflight presumes to lecture this council on its duties. You scatter yourselves across the void like children playing hide and seek, and when consequences follow, you expect elder civilizations to clean your wounds. Laughter rippled across several tiers. Kalen's jaw tightened, though his eyes betrayed nothing. We ask for nothing more than what was promised to every member state, Kalen said evenly. Protection from coordinated aggression. If the Council will not honor its word, then humanity will be forced to. To what? Zarak leaned forward, ridged crest glinting. Rattle your sticks? You fear war because you know you cannot survive it. You are fragile, Admiral. Your colonies are sandcastles against the tide. And tides, as you will learn, do not negotiate. The chamber stirred again, whispers laced with amusement. The insult was intentional, and Zarak's slitted eyes lingered on Kalen like a predator savoring prey. Kalen let the silence stretch. Then he deactivated the projector, and the burning colonies vanished in a blink. If war were something humanity feared, he said quietly, we would not be here at all. That earned a different kind of silence, brief, uncertain. Yet before it could settle, another counselor redirected the session, offering perfunctory condolences before dismissing the petition. One by one, lights dimmed above the alien tiers. Petition denied. Case closed. Kalen stood alone at the center, the echo of their judgment ringing louder than the laughter. Outside the chamber, Ambassador Celine Ward was waiting. She was younger, her diplomatic robes flowing like water, but her eyes burned with the same fire Kalen carried. They mocked you openly, she said as they walked through the corridor of glass that overlooked the swirling storms of Arcanis Prime. Every Anva in that room saw it. They will think us weak. Let them, Kalen replied. His voice was low, meant only for her. Weak prey draws predators. Predators reveal themselves when they think the hunt is easy. Celine studied him. You mean to let them keep striking? No, Kalen said, pausing before the lift. I mean to let them believe we're still begging for rescue. And when they finally bare their teeth, we show them what happens when you mistake patience for fear. The lift doors closed between them and the endless storm. That night, in his quarters aboard the UHS Resolute, Kalen replayed the Arrivo's footage. Colonists fleeing through firestorms. Children clinging to their parents. A young officer broadcasting a final transmission before the calm tower was obliterated. Her voice broke through static. They're not pirates. They're funded. They want us erased. Don't let them erase us. Kalen froze the frame on her face before the blast consumed her. He let the silence hang until the weight pressed against his chest. Humanity had been pleading for protection long enough. If the Council thought them incapable of war, then perhaps it was time to remind the galaxy of humanity's oldest inheritance. 2 days later, the next session convened. Rumors had spread quickly, Erevos 3 had fallen. Survivors reported weapons unmistakably of Council origin. Zarak was already in his seat when Kalen entered. His smirk revealed sharp, reptilian teeth. "I see another of your toys has broken," Zarak said conversationally as Kalen approached the plinth. "Perhaps you should keep them closer to home, where they might be safe under your modest defenses." Kalen ignored the bait. He activated the emitter again, projecting the Erevos transmission into the chamber. The officer's desperate words rang out across the tiers, echoing in the crystalline chamber. Silence followed. Not even the Saraki clicked their mandibles this time. "Enough," Kalen said when the recording ended. His voice filled the dome. "We came to this council for unity. We came for peace. What we found was indifference, and indifference is a kind of war. If this chamber chooses to look away, then humanity will act alone. And when we do, no one will misunderstand us again." Gasps rippled across the tiers. Open defiance was rare in the chamber. Zarak's eyes narrowed, but Kalen held his stare until the reptilian counselor finally looked away. The session ended in chaos. Some called for investigation, others for sanctions. But no consensus was reached. Humanity's petition was buried beneath procedure. Later, Celine joined Kalen in the Resolute's observation deck. Stars stretched beyond the viewport, cold and indifferent. "They'll never help us," she said. "They don't need to," Kalen replied. "They've already given us what we needed." Celine turned, frowning. "And what is that?" He watched the stars for a long moment before answering. "Time." When the alert came an hour later, no one was surprised. Erevos 3 was gone. Not just raided, erased. The colony's beacon went dark, its settlements reduced to cinders. Kalen listened to the transmission one final time. Then he straightened, his decision already made. "Signal every fleet," he ordered. "Project Iron Resolve is active." The officers on the bridge turned, stunned. Years of whispers, rumors of hidden shipyards and secret preparations, suddenly confirmed. Humanity's mask of weakness had been shed. Kalen's eyes burned as he looked out at the stars. The Council believed humans feared war. They would soon discover how wrong they were. The command deck of the UHS Resolute thrummed with restrained urgency. After Kalen Rourke's order, the ship's officers moved with precision, their voices clipped, eyes burning with a single understanding: the mask was off. Humanity was done waiting for permission to survive. Encrypted orders streamed out to hidden relay stations scattered through the asteroid belts. Beneath the Council's watchful eyes, humanity had prepared. Not openly, not with fleets paraded across star lanes, but in the shadows. "Admiral," said Commander Darius Holt, his tactical chief, stepping closer. "Confirmation received. All shipyards acknowledge readiness. Iron Resolve is active." Kalen didn't look away from the viewport. The gas giant's storms boiled below, a reflection of the tempest he intended to unleash. "Good," he said. "Signal the colonies. No more hiding. The fleet moves tonight." The hidden arsenals. For decades, humanity had quietly built in places the Council never bothered to check: hollowed asteroids, black market docks, abandoned mining rigs. Nothing gleamed with the polish of alien warships, but every vessel bore the marks of Earth's long struggle: hulls reinforced with scavenged alloys, weapons stripped and refitted from centuries of conflict, engines tuned for bursts of reckless acceleration no alien captain dared attempt. Now those secret armadas stirred. Cruisers crawled from their rocky cradles, frigates ignited drives hidden for years, and carriers emerged from the shadows like leviathans awakened from slumber. Thousands of men and women strapped into ships they had been training on in silence, waiting for the signal they were told might never come. The message of Erevos. On the civilian networks, the final transmission from Erevos 3 spread like fire. Families saw the desperate young officer's plea, her voice breaking across static. They want us erased. Don't let them erase us. In the domes of Mars, in the ice tunnels of Europa, across the far colonies clinging to hostile worlds, grief became something sharper. Recruitment centers overflowed. Retired veterans returned to service. Children carried banners of resistance through city streets. Celine Ward monitored the surge of messages pouring into the diplomatic channels. They're ready, she told Kalen. Not just the fleets. The people. Every world. They won't forgive another Revos. Kalen allowed himself one nod. Then we give them their answer. First strike. The first mission was simple in design, brutal in effect. Raider flotillas had grown arrogant, staging from asteroid clusters beyond Kalen reach. For months they attacked convoys with impunity, knowing humanity lacked the strength to challenge them. That arrogance ended tonight. The Resolute and 4 escorts drifted dark among the rocks, their drives cold, hulls coated in radar-absorbing dust. The raiders arrived, confident in numbers, their stolen ships bristling with mismatched weapons. Kalen waited until they clustered to divide loot. Then his command cut the silence. Engage! Engines roared to life. Human ships lunged forward, weapons blazing. The asteroid field became a trap of kinetic fire. Where alien captains kept distance, Kalen's crews dove into close quarters, ramming, boarding, fighting room to room with blades and rifles. Reports streamed across the tactical screens. Enemy drone control jammed. Frigate Argus locked for boarding. Our casualties heavy, but holding the breach. Kalen's hands gripped the command rail. Humanity wasn't outmatching them with technology. They were overwhelming them with something the Council had never measured: refusal to break. When the last Raider's ship detonated, the field went quiet except for the static of damaged hulls. Survivors drifted in pods, left deliberately alive. Kalen gave the order without hesitation. Leave them. Let them tell their masters what they saw. The price. On the medical deck, Kalen walked through rows of wounded. Soldiers lay with burns, missing limbs, faces pale but eyes defiant. One Marine struggled to rise when the Admiral passed. We held them, sir. They thought we'd run. Kalen pressed a hand to the man's shoulder. You did more than hold. You showed them what it means to fight us. The Marine's smile, even through pain, was worth more than any Council's approval. Shockwaves in the Council. The victory could not be hidden. Alien traders carried whispers, human fleets ambushing raiders, human soldiers fighting like creatures possessed, never surrendering. The Council chamber reconvened in urgency. Zarak's scaled hand slammed against the plinth, tail lashing with fury. This is unacceptable. Humanity destabilizes the frontier. They defy our authority, disrupt our order. They must be contained before this madness spreads. Other councilors murmured uneasily. Reports contradicted his outrage. Raiders had been harassing multiple sectors. Human strikes hadn't destabilized. They had cleared what the council ignored. Celine stood at Kalen's side as he addressed the chamber again. You dismissed us as fragile. You let colonists burn while debating protocol. We acted because no one else would. You call it madness. I call it survival. Zarak hissed, eyes narrowing. You believe this council fears you? Kalen met his gaze without flinching. Not yet. But you will. A growing fire. Across the colonies, the effect was electric. Footage of human boarding parties storming alien ships circulated, turning into rallying cries. Children painted warships on the walls of subterranean cities. Civilians volunteered supplies, fuel, anything to keep the fleets in motion. The Resolute struck again and again. Small victories, but each one louder than the last. Alien raiders began retreating from human sectors entirely, unwilling to risk encounters with ships crewed by people who fought until their vessels bled sparks into the void. Kalen's burden. Yet Kalen knew the cost. Each report of victory came with a list of dead. Every celebration was carved from loss. On the bridge one night, Holt approached him quietly. Admiral, we can't fight forever on will alone. They'll bring their full fleets eventually. Kalen didn't look away from the stars. Then we make them question the cost of sending them. Every world we lose, we take 2 of theirs. Every ship they burn, we drown them in wreckage. They wanted to test our fear. Let them choke on the answer. Cliffhanger. The reports came in rapid succession. Alien supply lines hit, raider bases burned, Council allies forced to acknowledge the truth. Humanity wasn't prey. They were something far more dangerous. But with the victories came whispers. Zarak was maneuvering, calling for sanctions, warning the Council that if humanity wasn't stopped now, no one would control them later. In his quarters, Kalen watched the galaxy map shift, red sectors of danger turning neutral under human strikes. His reflection in the glass looked older, harder. Celine entered quietly. "They're afraid," she said. "They should be," Kalen replied. His voice was iron. "They thought patience was fear. Now they'll see what fear really is." The stars outside glimmered coldly, as if listening. War was no longer a question. It had already begun. The war spread like fire through dry grass. Where raiders once prowled unchallenged, now their wreckage drifted, lit only by the glow of burning hulls. Human ships moved like shadows across the frontier, striking fast and vanishing before larger fleets could respond. Colonists who once whispered about extinction now spoke with sharpened pride. Every surviving enemy carried the same story back to their masters. The humans do not surrender, they do not run, they fight until nothing is left. The Campaign of Fear. Admiral Kalen Rourke stood over the holotaple aboard the UHS Resolute. Red markers bloomed across the projection, each representing enemy losses. For the first time in centuries, the Council's maps were shifting against their will. "They're breaking faster than expected," Commander Holt reported, eyes wide. "Whole flotillas retreating before we engage. They see our banners, and they scatter." Celine Ward joined them, her diplomatic robes traded for a plain officer's coat. "Fear spreads quicker than any fleet," she said. "But it also breeds desperation. Zarak won't let this stand. He'll push for open war." Kalen studied the projection. "Then we'll force his hand." Edge of the knife. The next strike targeted a fortified supply hub deep in Veari territory. Alien strategists expected a cautious human fleet. What arrived instead was chaos given form. Human cruisers accelerated through minefields at speeds no Veari ship would attempt. Fighters darted between defense platforms, weaving impossibly close to enemy fire. Boarding parties cut through sealed hatches, emerging bloodied but unbroken. Every order Kalen gave carried the same weight, not just victory, but spectacle. He wanted witnesses. He wanted legends. When the hub finally exploded in a chain reaction, he ordered the comms open. Survivors' screams carried into every council frequency. He made no effort to silence them. "Leave them paths to run," he told Holt. "Fear is worth more than firepower." The council fractures. The council convened in chaos. Representatives shouted across the chamber, the crystal dome amplifying their panic. Some demanded sanctions, others argued for negotiation. Councilor Zarak's voice rose above them all, harsh and furious. "You see? This is what comes of indulging savages. They wear war like a cloak. If we do not strike them now, we will all kneel under their feral banners." Kalen entered the chamber uninvited, his uniform still scorched from battle, medals unpolished, scars unhidden. Silence swept the tiers as he walked to the central plinth. Soldiers outside had tried to bar him. They had failed. "You call us savages," Kalen said, his voice carrying. "Yet it was not humans who sent raiders against children. It was not humans who funded slaughter from the shadows." Zarak hissed, his scaled fist curling. "You dare accuse this council?" "I don't accuse," Kalen replied coldly. "I remind. Every world we've built has been under siege since the day we left Earth. We survived because survival is what we are. You mistook patience for fear. That mistake is costing you fleets." Private reckoning. Later, in the council corridors, Celine caught him. You threw fuel into a chamber already burning, she whispered. They needed to hear it, Kaelin answered. Fear binds them better than law. She studied him, concern in her eyes. And what will bind us, Kaelin? How many more soldiers can we bleed before we prove the point? He didn't answer. He knew the cost. Every battle stripped more names from his fleet, every victory carved deeper scars into his people. But weakness had already demanded too high a price. Turning the galaxy. Stories spread far beyond council channels. Neutral races, once dismissive, now whispered about the humans who fought like wolves cornered. Traders told tales of marines storming ships while half dead, of frigates detonating themselves to take enemies with them, of an admiral who looked fear in the eye and made it flinch. Children of alien worlds painted human warships on their walls. Some called it madness. Others called it respect. For the first time in centuries, the galaxy shifted its gaze away from the old empires. Toward Earth. The climax. The decisive confrontation came not in space, but back in the council chamber. Kaelin stood once more before the gathered races, but this time he carried more than words. His soldiers hauled and captured banners, Veari, Siraki, Kyori, torn from defeated fleets. They dropped them onto the chamber floor. Gasps rippled through the tears. Zarak rose, trembling with fury. You seek to terrify us, he spat. Kaelin stepped forward, his voice a blade. Not terrify. Remind. Humanity was born in war. We do not seek it. We do not glorify it. But when it comes, we endure it, we master it, and we survive it. You thought we feared it. You were wrong. Silence held the chamber. Even Zarak faltered, his slitted eyes narrowing in doubt. Other counselors, once amused at human petitions, now studied Kaelin as though seeing him for the first time. The vote that followed was swift. Humanity was granted equal standing, not out of generosity, but out of survival. The galaxy understood, the humans were not prey. They were predators with memories too long to ignore. Resolution. On the Resolute's observation deck, Kaelin watched the stars. Below him, fleets regrouped, battered but alive. Colonies rebuilt under banners newly respected. Celine joined him, quiet. You won, Kaelin. The Council fears us now. He shook his head slowly. Fear isn't victory. It buys us space to grow. That's all. But it's enough, for now. She studied him in silence, then asked softly, And if they come again? Kaelin's gaze never left the stars. Then we remind them again. Final image. The viewport reflected his scarred face, the face of a soldier who carried not triumph, but burden. Around him stretched the endless night of the galaxy, vast and unyielding. But within that night, humanity had carved a place by fire and defiance. The Council believed they feared war. They had found out otherwise.